GSD mode interview. Every single week we interview top entrepreneurs and just straight up top badasses out there dominating their space. These are people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create epic, amazing lives for themselves and for their families. So today, you guys, I have a good friend of mine on the show. Third time actually on the show. It seems like every year throughout this time we kind of revisit this and rewrap. This is a dude that not just a real estate agent, but a very successful entrepreneur in a lot of different spaces that's out there kicking ass in this world, man. So stoked and honored to have Colton Lindsay on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
What's up? Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked, dude. So I know we were rapping for a while about self-development, different businesses, different things before we hit the record button. But let's talk about, we've had you on the show twice. We've talked about how you grew your real estate business, how you went from started from scratch to creating this mega team where now you've really created, I don't want to say it's fully passive, but to the point where you're only involved 15, 20 hours a week and you have a machine that's doing its own thing. And now you got to the point where your real estate business is on fire, you're really a CEO, if you will, of that company. It's now allowing you to get into these other spaces. So let's talk about that, man. I mean, number one, how did you make the transition into these other ventures and what are you doing in these other ventures today?
I had to transition by getting people that were as good or better than me into this business. That was the first thing. Like when we made a key hire earlier this year, Jeremy Nutt, he was managing a sales force for a chemical company. So they did like chemicals for like huge hotel chains, the MLB's uniform, stuff like that. So once I got a key guy over here, I could then trust that shit was going to get handled, like that I needed to get done, but I didn't want to do anymore really. Then I could start to shift my focus and my mind other directions, which I was excited about, And the digital world to me is super cool. When I was more running my team all by myself and my assistants, I couldn't really spend the time to learn it and engage with it because I had to turn contracts, right? I had to turn deals over here to keep the revenue up. And so that was it. Then I started shifting in and, I started working with Fearless Agent. That's a company I totally believe in. It's what helped me build my foundation in my sales business, prospecting based, generating referrals. And then from there I saw, well, heck, if we could start a business there that's successful and creates income, then I can shift it over here. So then I started launching a few different products just on my own website, kind of like just some hobby, like kind of a side, like Gary Vee calls it the side hustle, And then got with BC, Brian Casella in LA and AJ in Charlotte. And then we formed the Real Estate Hustlers Mastermind, which is super fun, man. Just like a group of guys gets together and holds each other accountable to create something cool with their lives. And then recently, just like literally in the last week, I launched Winning the Online Game, right? So one of the things I think is whether you're a real estate agent or an entrepreneur right now is you got to understand how the patterns are flowing inside of the digital world, right? And if you can connect with those patterns, you can then recreate your own and part of it. And number one, create massive value for the humans, yeah? And number two is create a revenue from that, right? You get enough, T. Harv Eker said, if you get enough people coming asking for questions from you, get them together, but then start charging them, right? Just start, and that's basically what I've done, just shifting it in different places.
Yeah, let's talk about the digital online game, man, because I agree. What's so cool about it is, I know that I'm known for real estate, right? Because it's kind of where I got my start, got my name and whatever, but it's where I spend the least amount of time, least amount of my focus. I mean, for me, it's maybe 15 minutes a week, right? My other 100 hours a week is in my 7 other companies. With that, so I'm a big believer in expansion, the online world, digital. I mean, all my businesses have a very heavy presence there. So let's kind of walk about that and talk about that, dude. So what do you mean when you say online and digital, just so our listeners can understand what you're talking about here?
Shoot, this right here, right? You and I are via Skype right now. You're recording it. You're going to put it on your podcast. It's going to be on iTunes and YouTube and Stitcher and whatever, right? I'm live streaming it over here to these guys. People are watching right here. And so it's like, okay, how can you get involved into that, but use it to serve other people? You see what I'm saying? I think we're in a divide where, especially the older generation, they don't get it. And then rightfully so. I mean, they've been creating patterns differently until the last 3 to 5 years, really, as it goes like this. And so what happens is as you can start to tap into that and flow that, you're thinking, okay, I can now create value more than any other time in the history of the planet, really. Like, if you started your message 20 years ago, you wouldn't have as nearly many people to be able to hear what you're doing. Yeah.
Yep.
And so it just gives you a broader range. But if you're going to be in there, use it to your advantage. We talked about this a little bit before, on part of your meditation process, and I've done some different things similar where you're literally talking to different characters in your mind subconsciously, right? And if you're not in control of that, and then helping others empower that direction as well, then that means someone else is getting in your mind, creating your story for you, creating your reality, right? Like I always tell people that life is empty and meaningless, and they think I'm crazy, right? And when you really think about the idea of empty and meaningless, it's like, okay, now you got a blank canvas. You get to paint and create whatever it is. Like you get to create your world, right? And so that's what I'm talking about with the digital world, learning how to take it to your advantage and serve other people. And you can grow your real estate business. Omnipresence, Grant Cardone talks about that, right? Grow your real estate business, grow your digital business, grow your whatever. But it's be involved on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and not only just being on there, but then how do you engage and enroll with others, right? Just like probably before you were married, you had to learn how to approach women, have conversations with them so you didn't get shut down. Do you have to deal with that in your life, learning how to talk to women?
No, well, I mean, my wife asked me out when we were like 16.
Okay, so you know,
of course, you do in not women, but I mean, in sales,
people,
right?
Right?
Maybe. I mean, it's still the same game, right?
Right. So you got to approach people, but now you don't approach them just in 3D or over the phone. You approach them via Skype. You approach them via live stream, Twitter, Insta story, right? How are you approaching and conversing with millions of people on the planet now and creating just a better world? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, so and I couldn't agree more with you, dude. It's one of these things where, I mean, if you look at, like I mean, everybody's got their entrepreneurs that they kind of follow. You talked about Gary Vee, and a lot of people follow Gary Vee. I look at guys that I really admire and look up to, like Ryan Blair is one of my favorite entrepreneurs, and he's got his company Visalis that does over $1 billion a year in revenue, but then he's also very strategic about creating the Ryan Blair brand. And it's like Jay-Z says, in his lyric, I'm not a businessman, I am my businessman. And I think everybody should, go at it with that approach where, it's like, okay, I've got my real estate company, I've got my software company, now I just acquired a health club, and I've got all these different companies, different entities, but then I also still have the Joshua Smith brand.
Yeah.
And while I'm building the GSD brand and all of these things. So as you're doing this, dude, and you're kind of building this out, give people perspective, because I think people will sit there and see, like they're watching this podcast or your podcast or whatever, and they see you making money at doing this.
Yeah.
Right? But it takes a long damn time, a lot of hours putting in, and I think that's why a lot of people don't do it, because they don't realize that, starting a podcast, I mean, it's 20 hours a week between doing interviews, booking them, editing them, and you're not getting paid anything on that and it might take you 2 or 3 years to figure out how to monetize on it.
Yeah. Well, I looked at it like this when I first was tripping as like, and in business in general, was a real estate agent, I was the same way. I went into it thinking, how can I get paid, right? The moment that I stopped thinking about how I get paid and I started thinking how I pay others, like how I serve others, create value for others, that's like, especially this year, dude, something clicked. I don't know what it was for me, is I stopped focusing. Not that I don't measure my metrics, like I measure profits, I measure our revenue, like I'm paying attention, but I'm not driven just on those numbers. I'm focused on, okay, who can I go create value for today, right? Who can I create value? And I had a similar experience as you were talking earlier. I did a mastermind probably a year ago November, where we brought in like the invisible cabinet and walked through this whole training. And one of the people in my mastermind was Tony Robbins. And I asked him the question, how can I most impact the world? And he said, Tony, right? Give the gifts you've been given, right? And so that's what I started doing. When I started focusing on what gifts do I have and just giving them to people, not worried about how are you going to pay me, that's when money opportunities just started flowing. Like money just comes to you at that point. That's, I don't know, like what else to explain.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. It's cool where, because somebody that might be watching this list is thinking like, dude, maybe they're not confident on the gifts that they have to give, right? Well, look at podcasts. Right? Like you don't have to, I mean, my podcasts are never really about me, right? It's I have a guest on and I'm just interviewing them, dude, and I don't have to have any gifts, right? My only gift has to be like taking the time to set the podcast, and dude, people that are successful love to share their stories and give back, right? So, you can deliver value to the world, even if you haven't necessarily made it and you don't feel like you have that confidence to bring personal value, you can still bring value in other ways digitally.
Yeah, I mean, and I started looking like, it didn't even have to be digital. Like, who could I help around the world today? Like, because it's the person at the bank that I'm dealing with. Is it a person at my age or at my office, right? Is it someone on my team? Who needs something right now? Like, who really needs service right now, and how can I tap into that, connect with that energy, and just level them up? Like, my team all the time, and it's up on my wall. You ever read Ask and It's Given? Esther and Jerry Hicks, great book. It talks about your inner world emotional guidance scale. So we're always asking, hey, where are you at on your emotional guidance scale? I actually see on my message pop up, Garrett on our team here, he just sent out to the whole team, hey, where are you at on the emotional guidance scale? And you've got these range of emotions from joy, happiness, passion, excitement, enthusiasm, clear down to fear, worry, doubt, and clear down to depression, right? And we feel these emotions, and our goal, our whole thing is, how do we drive up and feel that success on the inside, feel that inner winner? Like, how do we win at that inner game? And so that I hope to help other people win their inner game. The more I focus on people that want help and I want to raise it up, I help them, and then opportunities stem from that. Doesn't matter if it's digital or if it's 3D. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So then, I mean, eventually, dude, and yeah, you always lead from a place of contribution. I don't know anybody that's made it self-made on a big level that wasn't chasing the money. They came from a massive place of contribution, and the money follows. But at some point as well is, if money doesn't follow, we can't continue doing it, right? Like,
yeah.
you get to the point where, like, I mean, money is a necessary resource that exists out there.
Yeah.
So then, what kind of recommendation would you give to people if they go out there and they start their online digital, world, right? They're delivering content, giving back. Maybe they're starting a podcast like this. At what point, because you got to get eyeballs on there and whatever, and develop trust with your audience, at what point do you start thinking about monetization, and what are some things that you've had success with to monetize?
Yeah, so my first was my YouTube video, and I think I mentioned that in one of my earlier interviews with you. I put it up there, me prospecting, so that my sellers would think, oh yeah, I want to hire this guy, right? Come to find out, they didn't care. But real estate agents across the country who were too afraid or didn't know how to pick up the phone and make a dial started asking me questions. And for the longest time, I just wanted to help, so I tried and help as many as I could. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I got to focus where I'm getting paid to take care of my family, and you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't not get an income, right? And so then I started thinking of, for a couple years, how I could monetize it. And then that's where we were able to create a partnership with Fearless Agent and first start monetizing it online. I mean, I'd made some money off of YouTube ads, but that like bought me lunch once a month. You know what I mean? So, and then that's what I did. And from there, I just started being able to recommend something that I was stoked about. It helped me grow, and it's an awesome value for a lot of agents out there. It could teach them exactly how I started, just to be able to pick up the phone, spit out some words, as you're heavily perspiring because you're so nervous and you're going to choke on your own breath, sort of thing. That's a real thing. I went through that myself. I remember going up to my first listing appointment and like, dude, my hands were so sweaty. I tell this story all the time. Like, I felt like I was like petting turtles, right? And so as I started doing that, then I saw this opportunity, right? Okay, hey, listen, I don't have the time to help you. Check out Fearless Agent, right? It rocks. It's what helped me build my foundation today. Right, so that was step one. And then step two is people like to hear some of the things I was doing. Like, I've done a lot of trainings for Mojo. I've done a lot of trainings for Fearless Agent. I think, earlier this year I did a little thing at your Mastermind in Phoenix. So then I started just recording this content, and I said, hey, listen, here was this. I spoke at so-and-so or trained there and there. $25, grab it, right? And then just went on from there and just kind of tailored it. So that's the first thing is opportunities will come to you. Just be open to the opportunity. And like, for example, you talked about earlier, I don't for the last 6 months haven't really worked on self-development, personal development sort of thing. And I don't think you're saying I didn't work on building myself, right? You just worked more on getting specific with what you're building, like coding certain things, or how to run a sales funnel, or how to do this, right? So now all of a sudden you get more focused on when the opportunities are there. If you miss out on one, well, shoot, why did I miss out? Well, I didn't even know how to capture information, so I got to go learn that. So then that's what you're developing in. How do I learn that? Or who can I talk with that I've met in my Rolodex that knows how to do that, we could create something together, right? That was really the first thing too. And if you guys are listening, and want to get more on the digital side, don't think it's about creating your own products, right? You can start by reaching out. I don't know if you have any affiliate programs. I know you've talked about some. Like maybe you reach out to GSDmode and you've got an affiliate relationship with Josh where any customer that you bring into the organization, there's a revenue share or something, right? I don't know if you guys have something like that. We do that with winning the online game, right? So people don't have the money to maybe go launch a business online, right? Because they're tight for whatever on their income. But okay, but you get an affiliate link from my website. You promote it all the time because you think it's something great. Now all of a sudden, any customer that signs up through you, you're getting $50 a month, right? How many people would like to get 10 people paying them $50 a month because you help set them up with someone that could create massive value for them? Like that's what, $500 a month passive income. So there's huge opportunity out there when you start getting people following you, what you're talking about in your message, and you can introduce them to other messages that have either helped you or that you've just started yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I love affiliate partnerships, man, because it really, dude, it's like the greatest thing on the planet, right? I mean, you get to get paid, and you have none of the nurture, right? You don't have to go out there and develop a product. You don't have to. Yes, like the boot camps, right? And it's been through the boot camp. Now we only allow it and open it up to people that have actually physically been through it. But yeah, I paid $300, dude, right? So I mean, we per it's a $1,000 program. If they bring somebody in, we throw them $300. Yeah. And we have many boot camp members that have been through the boot camp. Now they're in the alumni, and they're making a G a month by just telling people about the program and getting them to sign up. So, and they don't have to do anything, dude. All they got to do is get somebody sign up through their link, boom, it's done. And I have many of those as well, and that I do in other industries where, yeah, you just you get that passive income coming in. You don't have to nurture it. You have really no cost into it. So I love that. That's a great way to start building that income for sure.
You know what I wish I would have done earlier, and it didn't connect with me? I wish I would have started collecting. Like, I get agents emailing me all the time, and I would throw them away. I'd delete them, right? I wish that I would have started an email list much earlier in the process, just so I could communicate with those people. I mean, I'd probably let thousands and thousands of emails disappear of people I could still communicate with that have at one time or another resonated with my message. So start an email list like right now if you guys haven't done that. And don't worry about how are you going to monetize it. Just worry about how am I going to stay in touch with these connections. You never know.
Yeah, and that's how I started too, man, was, I put out over 300 YouTube videos before I started coaching. I mean, I had a plan that I was going to get into the training space. I've never had really desire to get into one-on-one, dude. Like, it's just not my thing. Sucks. I'm not looking to be, the next Tom Ferry out there. But I do love training about things that I'm passionate about. So I love the group style that's affordable, effective, like I do. But yeah, 300 YouTube videos, just went on and started creating massive content, building an email list, not trying to sell anything, just just delivering massive value, dude. And then, yeah, eventually, like, you're going to feel it. You're going to have people reaching out to you, asking you to coach them. I mean, it just happens, right? And I remember for like 6 months, I was just turning people down. No, I don't have time to coach. Don't have time to coach. And one day I'm like, fuck it. Let's just do this. Let's just figure this out, right? After 6 months of turning down people trying to like begging to pay you, eventually it comes.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too, like, even if, like, I thought I wanted to do one-on-one coaching until I realized, like, the dollar per hour exchange is terrible, right? On the financial side, it doesn't make sense unless you are Tom Ferry, that all he really is, he's just a digital marketer. I mean, that's all he is. And then he has team staff that then does the coaching. You know what I mean? You go sign up for Tom Ferry coaching, you're not going to be talking with Tom Ferry very often, right? And so you look at all these different opportunities as far as staying in front of people. And my first thing with one-on-one coaching was this too. Like, people kept asking me, and I was like, well, I don't want to do it I'm not going to do it for $150 an hour, right? That's just not worth my time. But then all of a sudden I said, well, what would be worth my time? And I started spitting that number out to people. And a lot of them just said no at first, which was fine with me. But then all of a sudden people started saying yes. I was like, well, wait a second. I remember one guy, the first time I got paid $500 for 1 hour, right? Just to go speak. I thought no one would pay that to me at first. And then they said yes. I was like, holy shit. Then I started pumping that number up, and it kept going up. You see what I mean? And so at first, just serve. And then when people ask you, name a price. If they pay it, awesome. If they don't, that's fine too. But then all of a sudden, more and more people will start paying a higher price. as your value creation goes up. And I learned this from you as well, not just how much value do you create, but how much perception of the value you create, right? Like, how can you increase people's perception of the value that you're creating? Because you might be able to create massive value, but people can't perceive it, so they're not willing to pay you. But how many internet marketers out there or business owners have terrible value, terrible customer service, right? But their perception of it, of what people perceive them as, is through the roof. So people pay them for it, but then they get into the program or to the system or to the content, realize it's total crap, and then they want their money back or they're upset. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, 100%, man. So how do you then, okay, now that you're in these different spaces, because, this is a question I get from a lot of the podcast listeners that, are expanding in different spaces, but they have a very difficult time allocating their time. And then you get to a point where, man, everything is kind of spread out and you lose focus, and then now you're just getting a shitty result on everything. Mm-hmm. Now that you're in, multiple different spaces, what are you doing to make sure that you're when you're with your real estate team, they're getting the attention and energy they need from you, and then you're jumping over here to this compartment that's getting its energy from you. Like, how do you time block that, or what do you do to make sure that you're given the energy needed?
Yeah, so just identifying what my role is and what my priorities are, right? So for me, I've got a couple different things that my whole thing is about. It's really creating that Colton Lindsay brand, right? Like when people see Colton Lindsay on Facebook or Instagram or wherever they see me, or your podcast, right? Well, what does Colton do, right? Well, he's in the real estate business, he's on the online business. And so when they approach me about questions about this stuff that they view me as an expert on, really my goal is just to identify them and then get them with the right person who's really the expert in my organization, right? So for example, and this is just an example in my real estate business, if another agent has a question about a listing, or even a seller has a question about getting their house on the market, right? I identify what I need to, because I only work maybe 20 hours a week in that business, but then I set it up in our task management system that, Jeremy's going to follow up with them and make that happen, or Garrett's going to, deal with that. You know what I'm saying? And so I've identified, okay, what is my thing? So my thing is, number one is omnipresence. I love how Grant Cardone talks about omnipresence. I got to make sure that people in the internet, in the interwebs, know who the fuck I am, right? They got to know who I am and what my message is about. My mission is very clear. Create massive value for everyone, invite them to take massive action, and empower them to do that, and then invite them to do the same for others, right? It's a cyclical motion. And so that's number one, is I got to be out there in the internet, on Facebook and social media, branding me and my organization. Number two is, well, I'm still to the point in my business where my next level is making sure that my leaders are trained and motivated and staying on board with the vision and making sure that their vision is growing as well. So that's number two, is being a leader with inside of them and training them how to build more leaders. And then three, I haven't been able to give up the phones yet, dude. Like, I still prospect every morning. A lot of times it's doing follow-ups with my SOI and a couple of hot leads. But recently I've just been live streaming my prospecting sessions on YouTube. And so, people then can see, I do maybe 15, 20 minutes on FSBOs, and I'll set some appointments and then I'll farm them out to my team, right? But what happens is now I'm creating content, doing something that I enjoy, so people can see, oh, really, you know what? That people are going to tell you to fuck off on the phone, or people are going to be really actually crazy. But then all of a sudden there's going to be a nice, sane person that just isn't quite sure what they're doing, that really needs some help, right? And to show people, I mean, they can hear my exact script in words and tonality if you just watch it for free on my YouTube channel. And so identifying those items. And what was cool too is I have a Master Wealth Creator coach, and she went through my priorities, right? And I talked about this other day on a live stream, and my number one is God, number two is my family, number three is my business and my team, right? The people in my organization. And she opened up my Google Calendar, and all of my priorities, except for my wife and daughters, were actually on my calendar, right? And we kind of talked about that earlier. And so then it was identify, okay, how do I get clear on my priorities? And I do some things. I do weekly Smart Week. That's where I spend time analyzing my week. What did I do? What did I produce? Or where did I, drift a little bit? And then, okay, well, what's my next week look like? And then I started doing a lot of visual. I've always visualized for the longest time. That's powerful for me. But I started doing 6 phases recently, which basically start off visualization with compassion. Then you move to gratitude for yourself and others. And then you move to forgiveness, which is Man, forgiveness is huge. Like, you know, when someone just, you had a bad situation with them and you still kind of hold a little grudge, like everyone does it. I don't care who you say you are. So I started focusing on just like massive forgiveness to people. And then I got to the day where I then part of my 6 phases I do is then I start to visualize, what do I want to create? Where do I want to go? Like I want to go to Alchemy in Maui this year. It's a pretty cool training course that I want to go spend a week in Maui focusing on my inner world, my inner game, right? So I'm visualizing that. I want to make sure that we're getting to my daughter's tumbling meets, right? So she's got one in Vegas coming up in May. Like, so I'm visualizing like what kind of place we're going to stay at, what are we going to do while we're there, like just kind of going through that. And then I'll move to, okay, well, what's my perfect day look like? What's my day look like today? If it was perfect and I could create it, like I watched it on a movie screen and that's what my day looked like, I visualized that in my head. And then finally, I moved to the section of where it's called blessing, and it's in that book I was telling you about. But in blessing, where it's kind of you, whether you're atheist or whatever, it doesn't matter. You just imagine a higher being, a higher power, just blanketing at you with all the support and love and energy to be able to move forward and create what you're talking about up here in the subconscious, right? And so I would say that's the biggest thing. Like, how do you watch your time? You play it in your head ahead of time.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, dude, I mean, the saying, everybody's heard it, but, you know, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail, right?
Yep.
So I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, I've got my GSDmode performance planner and reflection, a tool that I use every day, 20 minutes the day before. I do it every night at 6 p.m. It takes 20 minutes to go through it, dude. I plan the next perfect day, but then there's 2 phases to it. So then I reflect everything. Like, here's what I need to do to win the day. So step number 1 is I got to go deep into reflection on this. How did I do, right? Like compared to what my perfect day was, and then planning that next perfect day. And yeah, you can never enter a day, dude, without full intention.
When you got if I'm gonna win the day, how do I win it? Like, what's the game? I gotta know what the game is. Well, the game is, I'm for you. It's like I'm out of bed at 3 a.m. Is that what you get out of bed? So
it's all over the place anymore, but yeah.
It's when you decide to wake up the next day, right? It's like, okay, because I was up till 4, I got to sleep for at least 2 hours, right? Yeah. But for me, it's like, okay, I'm up at 5 o'clock, and at 5:15, recently what we've been doing is we're doing an attitude of gratitude call with my team, right? So that my team is kicking the day off with that thought of what are we grateful for, right? And so then you start to get really clear by what the game looks like. Well, then it's showing up at the office at 7:30 to be with the team. Then it's hustling some prospecting calls and doing a live stream. So by 11 o'clock, I can knock out a few emails, return some call and chat with admin, so that then I can hit the gym and go get some exercise in. And then the rest of the day is I'm focusing on creating more content for this business, or I've got to watch this video so I can learn how to make sure that this funnel's working. And then by the end of the day, okay, so still visualizing, well, what does it look like going home, right? Well, I visualized going home to a clean house, which wasn't happening because of the way whatever we were doing, right? So now we figured out, okay, now the house is clean because we created a system. We got the house cleaner coming on a set schedule, figuring it out. So I come home, dinner's there, right? And then I get to hang out with my kids, go jump on the trampoline in the basement, or go read books, or whatever it is, right? We just did where, part of the day had to be, we had to schedule to where we could make sure we were sorting, arranging, and wrapping over 100 presents, right? Because our Christmas project this year was over 20 families and 100 different individuals to make sure they got their presents and ordered and wrapped and distributed, which takes a lot of time and energy, like when you get into it. And so you're visualizing, okay, what time are we going to start? What are we going to do? And then you don't think about having to go do it when it pops up. It's because you already lived it in your brain. You already took that blank canvas of life being empty and meaningless, and you started painting on that exactly what you're going to do. And most people will start to maybe write their list, and that's it, right? They don't start to write their list and then rank it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is important. Okay, here's 1. I need 30 minutes of that. Here's what that 30 minutes is going to look like. At this part, I'm going to do this, and you know what I mean? And think about when you get super hungry for one of your businesses. It's not like you have to really schedule time to get clear on it. It's more like you're just always thinking about it, right? You're always ping-ponging in your own head. And so it's not like you have to worry about, oh, I drifted over here on YouTube and I was learning how to milk freaking goats or giraffes or whatever, right? How often do you get on YouTube learning about that crap? You don't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You don't, right? Because that's not to what your mission is, what your vision is, because you're playing it out ahead of time, right? You're actually moving on to the next thing that you're excited about getting finished or getting done or getting completed, so you can move to the next thing. You hearing what I'm saying? You seeing that?
Yeah, I saw this meme the other day, dude, that was something like, why don't you see any Ferrari commercials on TV? Because those that are buying or have money to buy Ferraris don't watch TV, you know, right?
Yeah. Because they go to the Ferrari dealership and they're hopping in it. You know what I mean?
Yep. So, no, dude, it's one of these things where you won't meet anybody that's super successful that isn't extremely intentional with their calendar, with their scheduling, with their planning. One of our guests on an extremely successful cat, he was on about a year or two ago, and he said the difference between multimillionaires and those that are maybe talented but maybe making mid six figures or whatever is those that are making 7+ figures have zero tolerance for the unknown in their life with their time, like zero tolerance. Right? And that just comes down to just what you're talking about. There is no unknown in your world, right? You're planning, you're visualizing, you're intentional. There is no unknown that exists.
And I think too, when you say that unknown, I think that by what they mean is, and I hear people all the time thinking, I gotta know like exactly how it's gonna roll out. Like you gotta know, but you don't, right? Like let's say you're driving from Phoenix to LA at nighttime, like. Okay, you're seeing each 200 yards or whatever from your lights, right? You don't know what's beyond that 200 yards, but you're moving forward. So, like, there's unknown, but there's not unknown. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think where the tolerance of the unknown is, okay, I'm not going to go into this meeting
idle. Yeah.
I mean, full clarity, right? Like I have people hit me up every single day for meetings, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, what must happen to make this a win? What are your goals? What are you doing to make those goals reality? What are you looking to sacrifice? Like I'm not going to jump into anything that I don't know, that I
don't know what you can create out of it. I totally get that, man. So many times people are wasting time, and Facebook too. So that's the other thing with digital world, right? You can either use it to create value or you can use it to absorb junk, right? And like if you go listen to your podcast or someone goes listen to your podcast, you're going to create value for them. It's going to help them. It's going to create value for them, and they're going to be able to grow and apply and put that in their own life, right? However, oftentimes people are on their news thread, which I don't even have a news feed on my Facebook, right? But if you have a news feed on your Facebook and you're just on there to be on there, right? All of a sudden now you're reading about crap that doesn't even matter. Like seriously, you're reading about some dog that fell down a well in San Diego. I don't know. Like that's cool, but like does it really matter? And the next question is with the digital world, this is where it starts to fuck with my head a little bit, and that's I was like, fuck it, like leave it alone, right? It's not real. It's like, did it even happen, right? Or was this some fabricated thing in the digital world to get views? So then you start getting lost down the rabbit holes like we talked about. And so you just got to be protective. Like if you let your mind go, like if you let it off of a leash, it can create some gnarly shit, both awesome and super, super negative, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, what do those thoughts lead to, right? They lead to emotion. They lead to energy. They lead to that fulfillment, that feeling that you have inside. And that's at the end of the day why people want to hustle. They want to be able to get that feeling, right? Like they're fulfilled, like they're doing something with their life here. Before they die, what was the footprint that I left? And it's you're either leaving a footprint or you're getting footprinted on, right? You're getting stepped on.
Yeah, what do you, so we talk about Facebook, man, because I agree that it's such a time, and not just all social media. Like I have no social media on my phone. I'm the same way. I install Facebook newsfeed eradicators. Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Eradicators, so it's just boom, it's just gone, you know, and then you plug in there, dude, and when you do jump in there now, it's replaced with a motivational message and still allows you to do your thing. So my personal mentor and coach, Darren Hardy, he says that, Facebook is no different than social media, just way more lame. Not reality TV, right? So Facebook is no different than reality TV, just that much more lame. When we break it down, dude, and I'm as guilty as anybody, man. I would get sucked into people's drama and stupid shit. Yeah. And, next thing you know, you're in a debate, and I'm like, what am I doing?
But that's all right. Like it's okay. You got to become aware whether you're at your level, Grant Cardone's level, Mark Cuban's level, my level, or just like becoming aware. Like it's about becoming aware and then uploading like a new operating system to work off of, right? Okay, become aware this model of reality isn't serving me. So let's take that model out. Let's put it over here. Let's take a new model off the shelf over here. Let's plug it in and let's operate on this model. You see what I'm saying? So it's got its wins in just becoming aware of like, why am I in this debate? Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think we live in such a fast-paced, busy world, man, and unfortunately, too many people are just sleepwalking, right? They're just trying to get through the day, and they never take that time to spend time in solitude to really reflect deep enough to really become internally awake and have that awareness, you know. And what's your recommendation? I mean, is it 30 minutes in solitude a day of just reflection time to help you become more awake?
Yeah. So my first part of the day, I spend between prayer, meditation / visualization, reading, and journal writing. I mean, I'm a good 2 hours of just that right there. And then one of the things that I wanted to implement that I was kind of struggling on was my afternoons, solo time. Hitting the gym was always a time that I could kind of space out, but then I wanted prayer and meditation is really important to me, right? So I then asked my team to keep me accountable, just saying, hey, are you doing your meditation in the afternoon? So then I go back into the afternoon, 20 minutes of just meditation and silence and just backing off. And I always ask myself this question: what's real? Like, what's real? And then I start to analyze. If I'm in my FJ, I start to, okay, I've got my my clock here, I've got my steering wheel, I've got my seats here. Like, this is real, right? And so that way I can get out of my head and get into my heart. And you have to do that. Like, I have to do that. I have to stop and ask myself, what is fucking real right now? Is this deal falling apart because they got an extra $30,000 in judgments that no one knew about? Is that real? Or is real the fact that right now I'm on Skype with Joshua Smith and sitting at my desk? I got Garrett to the side, I got Jeremy in front of me. You see what I'm saying? You start to gotta paint the picture of what's real and not real in your head when you start to have a little freak out. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I like it, man. Yeah, the solitude time, man, is just so critical, man. Just have that awareness, have some alone time. It's scary, though, how most people can't be alone.
No.
Like, they can't even be in the car for 5 minutes by themselves with the radio on because they're scared to be with their own thoughts.
Yeah.
You know?
And I feel like, and I never listen to the radio. I mean, I might like I have this feeling for whatever. I want to hear Shakira for whatever reason. I'll turn Shakira on. I don't know. But anyway, so like
you guys get down at your office, man. I see you guys dancing.
That's part of one of my core values. Number one is positivity all the time. Positive mental attitude. I am about being full of joy, right? Number two is do it. Like, make shit happen. Go to work. Just, what's his name? Art Williams. I love his. You've probably heard the Art Williams thing. Like, well, what's it? Art. Well, art is, it's it. Just do it. And then you come up with all these excuses, but. Number three is, after it, is to serve others. And number four is have a ton of fun. Like, everything I do, I want to be smiling. I want to high five. I want to enjoy that moment. I got a lot of friends and people that I know over the years that they're no longer enjoying the moment, either because they're lost in a world of drugs and alcohol and drama and whatever, or they're literally dead, right? They're no longer even physically here. And I don't know when my time's going to go. I don't know when my switch is going to flip off, right? It could be today. It could be probably when I'm 115. That's what I've been visualizing, right? But I don't know. So today, am I enjoying this moment, right? Or am I living, like, who cares if you're hustling 80, 90 hours a week, but you're fucking miserable the whole time? You're stressed out because you can't do something, or you can't figure something out, or you're stressed out at work, and then you're freaking bringing that stress home, right? Who gives a shit how much money you're making, how much you're hustling, if you're miserable the entire time? I would way rather produce way less as far as number goes, but enjoyed every minute with a smile on my face. And then once the smile popped off, well, shit, this sucks. I definitely don't want to stay in this misery. Like, what do I got to shift immediately to change my state so that I level back up? Most of what you've produced isn't when you were in fear mode. It's never when you're in fear mode or scarcity or doubt or worry or contentment or boredom. It's not when you're depressed. It's when you are fucking passionate and full of love and you want to go create something. You want to go serve. And that's how I live my life, man. Having a lot of fun's part of that.
Yep. Nah, I love it, dude. Life's way too short to not, man. So I love it, dude. So, all right, man. I know we got to get wrapping up here, but I want all of
on things that you can do instantly to start building up your real estate sales business, or even start to looking at how can you get to where you're monetizing your digital world, right? At the very least, make sure you get there and just learn how do you increase your presence to an advantage. If you're going to be on Facebook, if you're going to be on Twitter, if you're going to be on YouTube, whatever, make sure that it's helping you, not hurting you. So, winningtheonlinegame.com.
Yep, love it. And we'll make it easy on you guys that are watching. Listen, there'll be links right below. Like I said, there's going to be links to Colton's first 2 podcasts right below. The links to his website as well as his personal website, along with the Winning the Online Game as well. So, all right, dude. So we got, what, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is before Christmas.
Yeah.
Like the highest suicide time of the year.
Really?
You know, yeah. Well, I mean, it's been like 5 years since I've heard that stat, so it could have changed. But at one point, and if you're fact checking me, I could be wrong, but sounds about right. You know, right? Because it's a lot of stress for people, whether it's stress because they feel obligated to do stuff that maybe they don't have the means to do, or they're depressed because it brings back bad memories of those times. Whatever it may be, there's a lot of people that are just mentally in a bad space, and I know you're a guy that is in a very strong mental space, you know, right? Which anybody that's watching this can tell. So with all that being said, man, if somebody's going through a tough time, maybe not just this time of year, but if they are going through that tough time, what's maybe some last words of advice or motivation or inspiration that you leave them to so they can start shifting that mindset to be in a great mental state like you are?
You know, the first thing that I would say, do is go get in front of a mirror and just say over and over again, I love myself, right? Like, I asked that question so many times to people. I got a guy, my mastermind partner, like he couldn't even say it to me. Like he couldn't even utter the words, I love myself. And so if you want to be in a better space, it's got to start within in here, just loving yourself, right? Ways to connect in to start loving yourself is start feeling other people's love. Like, and if you don't feel like you've got anyone to freaking give you some love or exchange love for, start going and giving it. Right? Go a simple, and I know this sounds so lame and cliche, go freaking connect and hug someone, right? Like, go reconnect with what really, really matters. And then another little trick you can do, it's kind of simple too, but like smile, and if you can't force the smile, like I'll like put a pin in my mouth and just force the smile, because you change your physiology, you start to change your inner world. So that was what I would say. Don't worry about what you can buy or can't buy. Worry about who you can serve this Christmas, right? Like this whole time, like I know that you and I make good income or whatever, and we can buy our family nice stuff for Christmas. But that's whatever. Like who is out there that, you know, I'm talking little kids maybe even, that are gonna wake up Christmas morning, they're not gonna have a present, right? Fuck if Santa's real or the whole whatever spirit of Christmas, whatever. Like it's cool to be a little kid and open up, a new toy or a new bike or whatever, right? So maybe there's something you could go serve, even when you get older, right? Someone wants even a simple Christmas card would be awesome. So you could go create a Christmas card and go give it to someone. Stop worrying about I'm going off now, Josh. Stop worrying about your fucking self all the time and start worrying about other people. It's not about you. This world doesn't revolve around you. It revolves around other human beings. So you can get out of it quickly. Just go serve other people. You'll be right out of it.
Yeah, and what's cool about that, dude, and I love that you brought all that up, is okay, maybe you're like, well, I don't have the means to go out there and buy gifts for these kids that I want. Well, okay, like you just heard, like dudes like Colton that are out there buying, all these gifts for all these other kids, right? Well, you can give your time to help him wrap those gifts, or things like that. You can go out there and give without having to give monetarily, right? There's always a way to go out there and contribute. So I love it, man. So you guys, I know I end every podcast with this, but information without implementation is truly just the start of delusion. Information is not power. It's taking massive action on that information that creates power in your world. So as always, Colton's always on here dropping a lot of content, you guys, that can go out there and massively increase the production that you bring to your world, massively increase your own internal success. And that's what you guys are here for. So make sure that you take something he shared today, go watch his other podcasts, check him out. Like he said, he's live streaming YouTube videos and contributing massively, giving free content. So maybe you're like, well, dude, I can't afford his coaching product. He gives massive shit away for free, right? So just start there. So definitely go take action on that. Check him out. And Colton, man, always an honor having you on the show, brother. Truly appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for letting me come back on.
Yeah, 100%, my friend. And we will talk to you guys next time.
Adios.
All right, bro. How'd you feel, dude?
Yeah, man, that was good. My phone's about ready to die over here. Hey, guys, make sure to check me out on Instagram at the WGR. We'll see you guys.